Hello everyone. In this tutorial video, I'm going to explain what is a JSON file, how to create a JSON file. But before that, please support the channel by clicking on the subscribe button and hit also the notification bell so that you will be notified with all the new videos that I'm going to upload in this channel. And so, what is a JSON file? Basically, if you understand JavaScript object, then you already have an idea what is a JSON file. So basically, this is used for transmitting data in a web application or web applications. So you're sending data from a server to the client to display a web page or vice versa. So it's like an XML as well. So you have a data from an XML and you display this XML data to the client, from the server to the client, to display a web page or a web application. Another thing is that basically JSON is like an array. It has an element or elements, and each element will have data. And you access this element using index address starting from 0. So think of a JSON like an array. In fact, it's called JSON array. Okay, so the file name extension of this is .json. Okay, just like XML, JSON was designed for human readable data interchange. Okay, so basically that is what a JSON file is. Okay, so like I said, if you understand JavaScript object, then you know already how to create a JSON file. So basically, you have a name and value pair, wherein you have the name of that value and the value of that name, something like that. Okay, so think of it as like you're going to create a database. You're going to create a table, and each table you have some records. So for each data, it will be represented by a field name. So you have the field name and then you have the data. And so this is the field name and it will have a data. So basically it's like that. They are separated by a comma, and each name value pair is separated by a column. Now, for you to have a better understanding of it, let's have some example of it. Okay, so here it is. So the first thing that you need to have is to place open and close curly bracket here. And then it will be inside now that you have to place the other elements of the JSON file or some details of the JSON file. So again, think of it as like you're creating a table, database table, and then you have a field name and data. So something like field name here and then followed by your data. So it's something like this. Okay, now, for you to understand it better, I will have an XML file here wherein we can convert this to a JSON file so that it will be easy for you to understand it, especially if you are or if you have an idea of what is an XML. Okay, so now if you don't have a background on XML, so just think of it, like I said, that you have or you are creating a database with tables, and in each table you will have some records. So for you to have records, you will have to create the structure of the table, and so you will define there the field name, and each field name will have data. So you have field name and data, so something like that. So here, if we have an XML of structure or something like this, so you will understand that we have 3 records here, okay, separated by the element record, and it has 3 data. The field name, ID, dname, and age. So we have these 3. And in the middle of each element will be the data. So something like that. Okay, so to create this, from this XML, let's create a JSON file of this. Okay, like I said, just like creating a table of a database. So the first thing that you will have is, again, you must put, or you must place, open and curly bracket, and then in the middle of it will be, let's call it student, right? So something like this, right? So student will be the name of the array, so something like that. Like I said, JSON is like an array. It is actually an array. That's why it's called JSON array. Okay, so like I said, if you have a background of JavaScript object, you will have an idea already of how to create a JSON file. So you have here the student. This is the name of your array, and followed by colon, and followed by open and close square bracket. Now, inside the open and close square bracket will be your records now, or your collection of data. For every record, you have data. Okay, so it's something like this. Now, because we will have, if you have only one record, something like that, then you can just place it inside this square bracket. But if you have more than one, let's say 3 or 4 records, something like this, and so I suggest you have to place it down something like this, so that you will have an open space like this. It will be easy for you to place your records. It will be easy for you to understand your records. It will be easy for you to see your records, something like this. Now, for every record, you will have some data, and this data will be enclosed with curly brackets. So basically, it's something like the first record we have already, so this is it, and the second record will be something like this. And if you have more, another one, so it should be separated by a comma, so something like this. If you have only 3 records, then there is no need for a comma. So basically, inside your curly brackets, that will be your data now, so something like this. So every time I create a JSON file, I just create this structure. So basically, it is something like this. So you separate each record by a comma, okay, and each data on a record are placed inside the curly brackets. Like I said, the data will be represented by a name-value pair, right? So the name will be something like, let's follow what we have here in the XML. So we have here ID, then followed by colon, and then the value, right? So something like this. And then again, since we have another data for this record, we have to make sure that we have the comma to separate each data. So let's have another one, dname, followed by colon, and the value will be sum. So it's something like this, and then followed by comma, and the next one will be age, and like this, right? You may notice ID and the value is 1. The 1 here will be treated as a number. It can also be treated as a string. All you need to do is to put or place double quotation or single quotes, right? It should be enclosed with single quote or double quotes, something like this. But if you want it to become or to be a number, then there's no need for double quotations. similarly with age, okay, so if you think this value will be used in computation, then better do not place the double quotation. Okay, so it's like this. So just remember, without quotation, single quote or double quotes, that means it's a number. With quotation, that means it's a string. The value is a string, right? So it's like, so we have now one record here. Okay, so something like that. Now, also take note, line number 6, age 20. The value is 20. The name is age. There is no more record or data, I mean, after age. So there is no need for you to place a comma. Simple as that. Okay. Now, let's continue with the other records or data. Let's say, I'm just going to copy this data here. So sometimes this is what I do. So sometimes I just put like this, all right? I just placed for the first record, I just placed these two curly brackets, and then inside will be the data. And then for the second, third record, all I need to do is to copy this and paste like that. And since we have only 3 records, again, line 17, I don't need to place a comma after the closed curly bracket. And so with this kind of a style, then all you need to do is to change your data. So as you can see here, so it will be more faster for you, or you will be more faster in placing your data. Alright, so something like this. So we now have a one JSON file, okay, with something like 3 records, and each record will have 3 data: the ID, the DNAME, and the age. Now, if we will come back here in our notes here, the curly braces, right? The curly braces are, or they hold the objects, and each name is followed by a colon. So the ID colon 1 are actually object. Right? Now, the square brackets hold arrays, and values are separated by comma. So square bracket here will hold the array. So something like that. And the name of our array, right, as you can see here, and the name of our array is student. Okay, so all of this, if we put together, it's now a JSON file. So again, when you save this file, you make sure that if you are using Notepad++, all right, you make sure that you save it as a JSON file. So you can choose the JSON file, that JSON file type here, or if it is not there, you can just use the alt types, and you have to make sure that your extension will be .json. Okay, so any name that you wish to place there, and then followed by that or period JSON, JSON. All right, I already saved this, so it's going to be like that. So the name of my JSON file now is example1.json. Okay, now how do we test this? Well, we can use the Firefox. Okay, Firefox is the much better browser to test the JSON file, because it tells us if there is something wrong with our JSON file. Let's say there will be some syntax error, so we can see from the Firefox. With the Chrome and with other browsers, it will just display the JSON file without showing if there are errors or syntax errors or error, something like this. So to test it, I'm just going to use my browser here, the Firefox, and all you need to do is to click and drag your JSON file inside the Firefox. So for your browser Firefox, so you just have to click and drag like this. So right now we don't have any error or issue with our JSON file. So as you can see, this is our JSON file here, and this is the output. Like I said, a JSON file is an array. Okay, so currently we have 3 elements in our array. Okay, so like I said, the way to access each element in an array, we have to use the index address of each element. It starts with 0, or it will start with 0. So 0 here, then 1 and 2, something like that. So from element 0, so we have 3 data: ID, dname, and age. All right. So it's like this. It's important that you understand the 0 here, 1 and 2 here. So these are the index address. We will be using this, or you will use this when you process this JSON file using a programming language. Let's say, for example, a JavaScript in combination with Ajax and jQuery. So something like this. Okay, so that's the importance of the element address here, right? So it's like this. Again, for every element, you have 3 data. So ID, dname, and age. So that's how we test your JSON file if it is correct, or if it has no syntax error. Now, let's say, for example, we have some syntax error. Let's say here, okay, we forgot the comma here. So I'm going to save now. So again, the rule is that you must have a comma here because you have another data. Okay, so since you forgot it, okay, so let's test it. I'm going to refresh here, and there you go. So this is the nice thing about Firefox. With other browsers, it doesn't tell where the mistake is, or where the error or errors are placed. I mean, if there are errors there, it doesn't tell, right? So in Firefox, it simply tell you, or it simply specify where the errors are. So as you can see here, line 6, column 4. So line 6, here it is, column 4. Okay, what is important is the row, right? So 6 is the row, or line number 6. All right, so again, just like any other programming language, when you check for the error, you check for the specified line number. Here it tells us 6, so you have to start from the 6. If you think there is nothing, there's no error here, then you have to go to line number 5, 4, 3, and going up. Okay, you will not check from 6 and then going to 7, 8. It's not like this. So you just have to check from line number 6 going up. Now sometimes the line is specified doesn't have the error there. So you just have to take a look at it. And if you think there is no mistake here in line number 6, then you have to check for line number 5. All right. So the error will be definitely from line 6 going up. All right. And so in line number 5, we know that we need a comma here, so we have to specify the comma there. All right. So when we run it again, there you go. So that's how it is. All right. Okay, so now sometimes some programmers or some JSON file creator, they don't use the Firefox to test, no? But basically this is what they use only. However, there are some JSON, online JSON viewer, validator as well as editor, which you can use. No? So let's say, for example, you then have a Notepad++, you have an editor like this. No? So this is the address of it. You can just check it out in your computer. So you can just place it here, right? You can just type your JSON file here. So let's say, for instance, we will just copy this and I will just place it here. So you can just type it here, or like this. So assuming you already finished typing it, so there you go. All right. So let's see the 3 So as you can see, the name of the array is student, and we have 3 elements. And if we click on this icon here, so it will expand. So there you go. Now we can always go back to our code by clicking the code button here. Again, when you have some mistake or error, it tells you immediately where the mistake is. So it's like this. You can just point to the X icon here, or the error indicator here, to tell you what is the error. So you just have to correct. And for you to see the output, so it's like this. So this is an online editor. If you don't have a Notepad++, then actually you can also write in a Notepad, the ordinary Notepad. Okay, Windows have this Notepad, so you can always write Notepad. I mean, you can always write a JSON file in any text editor. Right now, there is an online JSON viewer as well. Right. So here we can paste here, right? Or you can write here your JSON file, and you can test also here if it is correct or not. So you can just click viewer. There you go. So you see, I can see now my data, so there's nothing wrong in it. However, if you type it with some error or errors, let's say again, we forgot our comma here. And so when we click the viewer here, so it will tell us that there's something wrong with the JSON file. Okay, so all you need to do is to correct it again, find the mistake, find the error, and it will run it again. I mean, it should be running again. All right, so there you go. Okay, another one will be the JSON formatter and validator. Here, you can type your JSON file here. Let's say we type it something like this. And then you can just see if it is correct or not. So something like this. So all you need to do after typing your JSON file is to click on the process. And there you go. So it's valid. It will tell you that it is valid. If there is something wrong and you click on the process, let's say we forgot the comma and we click on the process, and then it will tell us that there is something wrong along this line here, right? So all you need to do is to correct it. Okay, so just have to correct here your JSON file here. Okay, so it's like this. And let's process it again. There you go. So you can use this online formatter, viewer, to write your JSON code, and as well as to test your JSON code or JSON file. Okay. So from the Google.com website, I will just type online JSON, and I will be able to have the JSON editor, the JSON viewer, and the JSON formatter. Okay. Or you can just simply run it in a Firefox. Okay, so it's going to be like this. So it's only very easy. Just only remember that you will have name value pair. Okay, and this name value pair should be inside a curly bracket. And this curly bracket, right, or series of curly brackets, all right, should be enclosed in square brackets like this. Okay, and this should be paired, this square bracket here should be paired with the name of the array. And the name of the array should be inside, again, the curly bracket here, as you can see here. So it should be inside square curly bracket. All right, so that's how it is. Now, for instance, again, our guide here is an XML. So we just converted this XML to a JSON file, something like this. Now, sometimes there are XML file where they have some attributes, right? I mean, some of the elements or one of the element or some of the elements have attribute or attributes. And so how do we do this? And also take note, there are some elements wherein there are also elements inside it. Like for example, the marks, as you can see here in this XML. Right? So it's like record. So it has elements inside. So basically it's like that. You have marks here and it has also some elements inside. So the way you do in records is actually the same with marks. So let me show it to you here. I have here, there you go. Okay, I already have it here. First, let's go with the attributes. So with the attributes, if an element have an attribute or attributes, and so all you need to do is to specify something like this. All right, so first is the name, right? So the name is the name, then colon followed by a value, but it's not a value. It's not an, I mean, it has a value, but it has also attributes. If that is the case, then you have to specify the attributes as well. So for the attributes, all you need to do, again, this data, the attributes and the data of the element, you have to place them inside a curly bracket. So it's like this. All right, and then followed by a comma in the last part. Okay, because you have another data which is age. Okay, if you don't have any other data, right, it's only dname, ID and dname. After dname, no more data there, then no need for the comma there, right? But because there is another data, so you have to place the comma there. So, and then inside the curly bracket, then you have to specify now your attribute and data. For the attribute, specify, or you have to place @ sign and then the name of the attribute. So in this case, gender. So we have here gender. So again, the same. Name, value, pair. Right? So the value of gender is male. And then we have spec here. That's the name of the attribute, spec. So I'm going to specify @spec. Don't forget the @. The @ means for the attribute. Then the value SE. Now, for the value sum, this is the value of the element, which is sum, you have to use text. Alright? So this time, do not use @ sign. You have to use this number sign here, or the hash sign. Alright? Or the hash character, or the number sign. Alright? The pound sign. And then followed by the text. Followed by the word text. And then sum. Colon, and then the value sum. So it's going to be like this. If it doesn't have an attribute, then as simple as this, like for example, the ID, it doesn't have an attribute. So after colon, you just have to specify the data or the value, right? So it's like this. Now for the marks, it's like creating the student. Okay, so as you can see here, so marks, and then followed by colon, followed by square bracket, and followed by curly bracket. And then inside will be the data now. Right? So it's something like this. Separate each name value pair with comma. The last one, you don't have to place the comma. So as you can see, it's like this. So if we will test this now, so there you go here. So again, I just click and drag the file, JSON file, to the browser. So as you can see here, it became something like this. Alright. So let us see again. There you go. So again, we have three elements: 0, element 0, element 1. I'm sorry, we have only 2. So element 0 and element 1 here. So we have 2 elements. So each element will have ID, dname, age, and marks. And marks have also elements inside. So CW, ME, and FE. Now take note, the marks. The marks here will also become something like an array. Alright? So right now, we only have one record for marks. That's why we only have 0 here. So if we have something like another record for marks, okay, another set of a record here, let's say, let's put it like this. There you go. Alright. So when we run now, or when we test now, so as you can see, there is an element and then there is an array inside that element. And so that's what happens. That is what happened to the marks element. Alright. But because we will just follow this one, our XML here, so we don't need this. So I'm just going to remove this. There you go. So, but if you have something like that, then you just have to place another set of records. So something like that. Alright. So I'm going to refresh it again. There you go. So take note also of the attributes. Gender, spec, specialization. Actually, this is specialization, and the data of the element, which is the sum. There you go. So, okay. So it's like this. So this is how you specify an element with attribute. So as you can see here in the dname. Alright. So I have another example here. Let's say here, example number 3 here. This is an XML file. Hopefully you can have it here. There you go. So it's basically the same with number 2 example. Alright. So the only difference is that, look at the marks. The marks in the XML file, this one here, it doesn't have a data because it's an empty element. However, it has 3 attributes: the CW, the ME, and the FE. Right? Also, for the dname, it has 2 attributes: gender and student ID. Right? So I think it's the same with number 2. Right? So now with the JSON file of it, again, it will be like this only. Now, again, for the marks here, as you can see, all are attributes. So there is no data. It's an empty element, as you can see here in our XML. So we just have to specify something like this, line number 7. Alright. And so let us try to test this one here. I'm just going to use my firefox here. So I'm just going to click and drag here. There you go. So there. So this is our JSON file now. It has 3 elements, no? So we have here 1, 2, and 3. Alright. So as you can see, so we can click this to expand and see the data. So as you can see here. Alright. So ID 1 and then the dname, it has 2 attributes and 1 value. Alright, the element value dname, the value of element dname is sum. And then followed by the age. And it has also another element, marks, but this marks doesn't have a value, but it has attributes: CW, ME, and F. So same goes with element 0 and element 1 and element 2. So there you have it. This is how you create a JSON file. By the way, you can always specify like this, no? For instance, let's go back to our example number 1. You can always specify like this. You can write it like this in one line. So if you can view, or if you can see in one line all the data, then this is just fine, right? To save some space. So you can also do like this. right? Okay, so you specify in just one line all the name value pair. All right, so it's like this. You can even specify like this, right? So all in one line. So if you understand all in one line, I mean the data written all in one line, all right? So it's also possible like this. It doesn't matter. Let's test it again. So that is our example number 1. So the output will be the same, right? So as you can see here, all right? So you can specify something like this all in one line, or for each data, specify them in each line, or write them in each line. Okay. So this is how you create a JSON file. It's just very easy to create one. I hope you understand it. On my next video, please watch for it. It will be how to process this JSON file. Okay. I will be using an HTML there. I will use a JSON, jQuery and Ajax. So HTML, jQuery, and Ajax to process this JSON file. So watch out for that video. So once again, this is how you create a JSON file. It's just very easy. So I hope you understand how to create it. Okay, so thank you very much for watching this video, and see you on my next one.